Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today and welcome back to another Planet Zoo speed build. In today's video, we are actually finishing off the little restaurant overlooking habitat one-off project that I had started a little bit ago. If you missed it, there are two videos up so far, one for the lion habitat and one for this restaurant building that we're kind of putting some decals on right now. I just felt like building something different and I didn't want to be restricted to any one of my individual projects right now, so I am having fun just kind of building this. So in the last couple episodes, like I mentioned, we built this restaurant. There's nothing inside of it, it's just a facade, and then on the other side there is an African lion habitat, and then on this side I decided to build for the spotted hyenas. Now I've never built for the spotted hyenas before and I don't really know why. They're such an interesting animal, but I felt like they went along really well with the lions because they are also an African species, but they're also really closely related to cats. A lot of people think that they are related to dogs and part of the canine family, but they're not. They're actually more closely related to cats than they are to dogs. So I thought that they would fit in really well in this kind of little one-off project that we have going on. My thought being that the back stages are kind of close together and this would be kind of a section part in a zoo. So hopefully you guys do enjoy it. I'm gonna try after this to put a barrier all the way around this entire project and put the whole thing up on the workshop. I am a little hesitant to do so because when I have done that in the past, things like elevation changes and the water kind of gets a little funky and wonky, and I hate when people have to really struggle to get workshop things to work for them. But I'll try my best to get this up on the workshop so you guys can have it. The restaurant though is up there by itself just as a blueprint, so if you're interested in downloading that, you are welcome to as well. Links to my workshop are down in the description below. But basically what we are starting off with today is the barrier of the hyena habitat, and I decided that this side would be more like fenced off rather than just completely surrounded by rocks. So the lion habitat on the other side has mostly rocks and then a little bit of wall. I decided for the viewing area for this one, I wanted to keep with that chain link, but this part wasn't covered, so I went with kind of an old school chain link fence with a little bit of a slant at the top to make sure that, you know, no animal could potentially climb out. Although the hyenas are not going to be doing a lot of climbing, that's just what you see in zoos and, you know, animal facilities to make sure that the animals cannot escape. Maybe at some point this was used for another animal other than the hyenas. But so that is going to be the little viewing area, their little raised patio section of the restaurant. So you can either get your food, go over here and watch the hyenas, or go over and watch the lions. Now this habitat, you'll see in just a minute or so whenever I get to it. I ended up making it rather large, and it didn't make sense to me to have a hyena habitat that was larger than the African lion habitat because I would think that lions would need a little bit more space than the hyenas. So what I end up doing is I actually end up creating like a visible backstage area for the hyenas. It's kind of a little off exhibit pen, and so we put a couple hyenas in there and then 4 hyenas out in the main exhibit, and this is going to simulate like rotating animals through. We put a couple little guillotine chutes to simulate the fact that keepers would be able to move these animals around in and out of their exhibit. And that's how I kind of handled that to make the actual exhibit just a little bit smaller. This exhibit also has less viewing than the lion habitat. You can see here that we're working on the guest area. So this is going to be a little covered building that the guests can walk into, and this is where they get the main view of the hyenas. If they don't want to sit at the restaurant and eat their food at the table, they can come over here and they can view the hyenas from this little glass enclosed hut. hut. So it's gonna have less viewing. My idea was maybe that this was the original habitat built by this restaurant, and maybe the lion one was a little bit newer. I mean, they could have been built at the same time. It wouldn't really make sense to have the habitats built one after the other, right? If they were doing this whole kind of complex construction area, I think they would have done it all at once. So anyway, they have a little bit less viewing, but I think their habitat turns out really cool. I'm really happy with it. We're using the same kind of rocks that the lion habitat, and yeah, now that I think about it, we're using a lot of the same features. This was totally built all at the same time. I don't know what I was thinking, suggesting that it was built at different times. It was totally built at the same time because we're using the same backstage building and we're using the same kind of rocks with the hot wire fencing around the top to simulate the fact that no animals can climb out, that they would be kept in their habitat. But yeah, so this is the start of the little backstage area, and I end up making it a little bit of like an L angled shape. This is where I'm realizing that the habitat is going to be far too big. When I kind of copy this little wall over and start to get started on connecting the whole thing, it's huge, it's massive. So I'm really happy with how the little backstage area came out. This is something that a lot of facilities do have if they have animals that can't live together, but they have a couple different populations of a certain animal and they need to kind of rotate them around and make sure that nobody gets upset with one another by being too close in proximity or sharing a habitat with each other. So yeah, so I'm really happy with how that kind of came out. Or, you know, maybe they have an area where they're a sick animal and they need to quarantine them. Of course, implied inside this building that we're working on is supposed to be like the backstage area for the hyenas. So inside there would be more cages, more enclosures to bring them back for more things like, you know, for medical attention or just exams or something like that back inside that building. But yeah, so as we are going through and making the perimeter of the habitat, let's talk a little bit about our hyenas. So I already mentioned that they, you know, they may look like dogs, but they are actually more closely related to the cat family. I have some information pulled up from the San Diego Zoo's website, so we'll just kind of go ahead and go through it. The spotted hyenas are also called laughing hyenas. The spotted hyena is a strong and capable hunter. It is the largest member of the hyena family. Other members are the striped hyena, the brown hyena, and an aardwolf. I actually haven't heard of that animal, aardwolf. So if you guys have, let me know. I'll have to look it up after this. Female spotted hyenas are a bit bigger than the males, but otherwise they look exactly the same. The spotted hyena may look unusual at first sight. It has a large head with a long, thick, muscular neck and powerful jaws that give the hyena the strongest bite of any mammal. Its front legs are longer than its back legs, giving the hyena a profile somewhat like that of a wildebeest or bison, because their hips are going to be much lower than their shoulders, so they have like a slanted look to them. The spotted hyena's paws have 4 toes with non-retractable claws. The short, coarse fur has a yellow or gray tint covered in spots, which differ among individuals. Its ears are more rounded than that of other hyenas, and a short mane of hair along its back stands upright. Its only true predators are lions and humans. So that's another reason why I decided to kind of put them with the lions. I thought it might be a good educational opportunity for whatever zoo this is to keep the predators and prey close to each other, but not, like, they clearly can't see each other, but they would probably be able to smell each other. So form of enrichment for these guys is, you know, they can smell each other, so it would simulate out in the wild being able to smell and be in the same area as each other. And who knows, maybe this is one of those things where they flip-flop them, right? Sometimes they have the lions in this enclosure, sometimes they have the spotted hyenas, and they flip them so that they can kind of smell where each other have been, but without directly seeing each other, right? What I don't want is to have predator and prey on each side of a fence and have them be kind of taunted by the other. Like that, I don't think that that would be very fun for the animals, but yeah, moving on to talk about their habitat and diet. So staying cool, these interesting carnivores live in Africa, south of the Sahara Desert. They are able to survive in savannas and swamps, as well as semi-arid regions and even mountainous forest areas. Rather than resting in dens, adult spotted hyenas sleep in holes or shallow pools or under bushes and scrubs, anywhere they can find shade during the heat of the day. Hyenas use watering holes as places to cool off or hide extra food. Spotted hyenas can be active both day and night depending on their needs and whether there are humans around, but they are generally nocturnal. So this is another reason why I decided to give them an actual pool to wade in and not the lions. The lions just got like a water bowl. These guys do kind of congregate, like it said, around watering holes, and then actually as soon as I put them in, the in-game hyenas went like directly for a swim, so they clearly like going in the water. Lions and hyenas compete over the same food in overlapping territories. Sometimes the hyenas do the work of organizing, chasing down, and killing prey only to have the lions steal it. Lions often injure or kill hyenas as they fight over a carcass. Both hyenas and lions mark and establish territories, and both species are always on guard. When confronted by a lion, the spotted hyena calls for help from other hyenas. In a large group, spotted hyenas are able to chase lions away from a kill, but during a hunt, the hyena's impressive hunting skills come into play. They are able to chase down prey over long distances while running up to 37 miles per hour or 60 kilometers per hour. Spotted hyenas can often pick out the young or weak from a herd, but they can kill even healthy adult ungulates. What they hunt depends on their numbers. The bigger the hyena clan, the larger its prey. This can include young rhinos, adult wildebeest, zebra, and Cape buffalo. The hyenas work in groups when hunting such large prey, and young hyenas take years to become successful. Smaller packs chase down things like gazelles, impalas, warthogs, and water bucks. When hunting alone, a spotted hyena may go after smaller prey. Ground birds, rabbits, spring hare, bat-eared foxes, porcupines, jackals, and fish can be on the menu. Even ostrich eggs are fair game. Spotted hyenas also scavenge, but they have to compete with jackals and vultures for these leftovers. A hyena can eat quite a bit at one time. Sometimes leftovers are buried in a mud hole for a later meal. Spotted hyenas give new meaning to the phrase, lick the platter clean. They eat practically every part of their prey, including skin, hooves, bones, and teeth. Powerful jaws are able to crush bones with ease. Most other predators couldn't eat those things, even if they tried. There are some items that hyenas can't digest, such as hair and horns, although they still do eat them. So that's a little bit about our hyena friends. I think that I say this every time, right? You guys can quote me. What am I gonna say? I think these are fantastic animals. I think these are interesting animals, but it's true, I do. I think all animals are interesting, to be fair, but these guys are very interesting animals. So as always, if you guys have more hyena facts for me, stuff that I missed or didn't go over, because that is of course just a very brief information on them, leave those down in the comments below. I absolutely love reading animal information and facts from you guys, and anything you think that I would find interesting, I'm sure I would, so go ahead and leave it down below. But jumping back into the build, this is where you might have seen it because I don't believe I cut it out, but I started with that big arch rock that is from the aquatic rocks, the flexi-colored rocks, and it just was too big. It was too massive. I didn't think it was realistic. So I went searching on Google for hyena habitats, and a lot of ones that I found had these kind of just rock-formed little house cave things for them. And so I decided to make them out of the much smaller aquatic rock pieces to better simulate the scale. I think the scale is much closer on these two, in these two little caves that I built than the bigger rocks. Some of the bigger rocks are just they're just too big. They're just too big and they don't fit the scale right, especially like with these animals. I don't believe they can actually go in these little houses, but it looks like they should be able to, right? Like they're the right height and they're just a little bit of shade and cover from the sun and the weather. And I think they look much more natural and fit in with the habitat much better. But this little section here that we're working on, this is kind of the backstage little area, and you can see I've already built the little guillotine chutes to kind of get them in and out, just taking the guillotines that I had already built from the other side of the lion habitat and bringing them over here, but caging that little area in, so this would be how they get in and out. I also made sure to pay attention to the little details in this habitat like pace marks or pace tracks. So I do use the sand here in just a minute and kind of trace out where these hyenas would be pacing back and forth. So they go from the little shelter areas here and then along either side of this fence, because even though they're separated, I imagine that they might pace up and down, back and forth, looking at each other because they're only separated by a fence. But I do the same thing in the main habitat as well, just kind of tracing out where these hyenas would be walking over and over again. So a lot in front of the water, a lot in front of the perimeter of the habitat and where guests would be viewing them. And then using this grass to kind of simulate this is where they don't walk, because that is where the grass is growing up a little bit higher. I was gonna try to use the long grass, like the terrain paint in game, but I put it down and I reminded myself right away that I really don't like it. I don't like how it looks. I don't think it looks that realistic. It's super tall, but it's kind of sparse, and I don't like it that much. But this piece that came with the Africa pack, this grass, is one of my favorite pieces ever, because it's just perfect. You can layer it, you can build it up, you can make it as kind of thick or as sparse as you want it to be, and it's just perfect. So the rest of this build is mostly just putting down the foliage and then putting down a couple enrichment items so that the hyenas have something to play with, and pretty much that is it. You can see I'm moving some trees here because I hate when the background is too blank, and so I'm putting some trees back there so when I do take a thumbnail picture, there is something in the background. It doesn't just look like they're in an open field. But yeah, so here putting down some enrichment for them just here and there, and that is pretty much going to finish it up. We go back out to the outside of the habitat for just a little bit to work on the guest area. The guest area is not that detailed. I do throw some custom signs up there and move over our sign into this like planter that I'm extending here. But other than that, it's basically just making the what are those called? Those temple pieces, the ground, the concrete, match up so that it looks like people can walk over there, and making it all look like it is one cohesive build. So as I said before, I will do my very best to get this up on the workshop for you guys in the form of a habitat. I'll run a null barrier all the way around it and see if I can't make it work so that you guys can use this in your project. I've had a few suggestions for me to turn this into an actual project and keep going with it, because you guys are loving the style, and I love that you guys are loving it, but I likely won't. As I said before, I am having such a blast just building one-off things. In fact, today we just started a one-off Australian kind of section themed after the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. So if you guys missed that, the stream is up on the channel, and as soon as we finish it, the speed build will be up there as well. But until then, we're gonna jump into some glamour shots so you guys can see the finished product. If you guys did make it this far in the video, you're enjoying it, leave a like down below and hit that subscribe button. It'll make sure you don't miss out on any future Planet Zoo content. We are just on the edge of a DLC and update, and we don't know what it is yet, so I'm very, very excited to see what they have in store for us. In fact, when this video gets released, they will likely be streaming in like an hour or so from now, so we might be just very close from finding out what they have in store. But yeah, you guys, all the links to my other social media accounts are down below: Discord, Twitter, all that kind of fun stuff if you want to follow me elsewhere. My second channel is also down there as well. I just recently started a second channel covering The Sims 4 and doing speed builds over there, so I would love to see you on that channel as well. But until next time, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!